The studio lights blazed hot, the audience roared with laughter, and Stephen Colbert leaned back in his chair with that sly grin that could cut sharper than a knife. But tonight, something felt different. John Kennedy, known for his easygoing humor and calm demeanor, sat across from him, adjusting his tie as the cameras zoomed in. He wasn't just another guest here to promote a book or make small talk. He was here to defend himself against an accusation that had shaken not only his career but his very sense of self. It all started the week before, when a viral clip had spread across social media like wildfire. A political commentator accused Kennedy of betraying his values, claiming that he had secretly supported legislation that went against everything he had publicly stood for. The accusation wasn't just a slight, it was an attack on his integrity, his reputation, and the trust people had placed in him. Overnight, Kennedy found himself at the center of a storm, the headlines ruthless, the comments even worse. Some called him a hypocrite. Others said he was finished. And now, he had been invited onto The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, not just for laughs, but for what the world was waiting for, a confrontation. The audience settled as Colbert leaned forward. "So, John," he began, the grin still on his lips but the tone heavier, "a lot of people are saying you've been playing both sides, that you say one thing to the public and another behind closed doors. Care to explain?" The room grew quiet. Kennedy's heart pounded, not from fear of Colbert, but from the weight of the truth he was about to share. He looked out at the audience, their faces expectant, some skeptical, some supportive. He could almost feel the millions watching at home, waiting for him to slip, to fumble, to admit defeat. He leaned in, his voice steady but filled with conviction. "Stephen, I'm glad you asked that, because this past week, I've been painted as someone I am not. I've been accused of betraying not just my supporters, but my own conscience. And I'll tell you right now, those accusations are false." Colbert tilted his head, curiosity flashing in his eyes. Kennedy continued, his words growing stronger with every sentence. "The truth is, the bill they're talking about, I didn't vote for it. I fought against it. But because I didn't make a show of it, because I chose to work quietly, strategically, instead of grandstanding, people assumed the worst. And when one person twisted that narrative, the internet did the rest." The audience murmured, some gasping, others clapping. Kennedy paused, the emotion rising in his chest. This wasn't just about politics anymore, it was about something deeper. "You know, in this world, we're quick to believe the loudest voice in the room. We're quick to tear someone down before we even bother to ask them what really happened. I've spent my career trying to build bridges, not walls. But it seems that every time you try to do good in silence, someone mistakes it for weakness or worse, betrayal." Colbert sat back, his usual smirk replaced with something closer to respect. "So, you're saying you were working behind the scenes?" Kennedy nodded. "Yes, and not for my own gain, but because sometimes the most effective victories aren't the ones shouted from the rooftops, they're the ones fought in quiet meetings, in difficult compromises, in moments nobody ever sees. I wasn't going to defend myself on Twitter or play the game of sound bites. I wanted to do it here, in front of real people, so they could see my eyes and hear my heart." The studio fell silent, then erupted in applause. People rose to their feet, clapping not just for the defense Kennedy had given, but for the raw honesty in his words. He hadn't dodged the accusation, hadn't resorted to cheap shots. He had told the truth, stripped bare of spin. Colbert, ever the professional, leaned forward with the rare softness in his voice. "John, that was a broken bar. Well, that was powerful, and I think a lot of people needed to hear it, not just about the bill, but about how quick we are to judge." Kennedy smiled faintly. "Stephen, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, and I'll make more. But one thing I'll never do is betray the people who trust me. My father used to tell me, son, when your back is against the wall, that's when you show the world who you really are." Well, my back was against the wall this week, and tonight, I hope I showed people that I am still the man they believed in. By the time the segment ended, the atmosphere in the studio had completely shifted. What started as a setup for confrontation had turned into a moment of redemption. Kennedy walked off stage not with relief, but with a sense of clarity. Sometimes, the greatest battles aren't won with statistics or arguments, but with honesty and courage. The next day, clips from the interview went viral, but this time in his favor. Headlines praised his composure, his honesty, his refusal to cave under pressure. People who had doubted him began to rethink. Supporters rallied, not because he was flawless, but because he was real. And for John Kennedy, that night on The Late Show became more than just a TV appearance. It became proof that in a world of noise and accusations, the truth still had the power to cut through, and that when you fight back with integrity, you don't just defend your reputation, you inspire others to stand firm in their own battles. By the end of it all, the message was clear: strength isn't about shouting the loudest, it's about standing tall when the world tries to knock you down.